Welcome to Kaleidoscope. Let's talk. This month is International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. It's no secret that COVID-19 and lockdowns led to an increase in domestic violence and intimate partner violence in the world. But in Sri Lanka, even before the pandemic, 1 in 5 women had experienced sexual and physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime, and 1 in 4 women had experienced violence since the age of 15. Clearly, women in our country don't have it any easier. And this month, I want to place a spotlight on the issues plaguing the women in Sri Lanka. Here with me today is Ambika Satkunanathan, human rights lawyer and activist, who was Commissioner of the National Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka. She's also an expert in transitional justice, accountability and reconciliation, and she's here to talk about the plight of women in Sri Lanka today when it comes to violence against women. There's a lot of rhetoric when it comes to eliminating violence against women, but little action in Sri Lanka. Why is it so difficult to tackle this problem?
It is about our values. It is about the position of women in society. We are a deeply patriarchal society. People don't even want to use that word. They're so frightened. Patriarchal means it's a male-dominated society. And women, despite the fact that in our constitution it says that everyone is equal before the law, you should be treated equally, and that you cannot discriminate on the basis of one person's sex, we are. Right? And that is something that is deeply ingrained in our systems, our institutions, and our values. So much so that when you question discrimination of a woman in terms of maybe in a workplace, even in terms of sexual harassment, or even family violence. So it is because we refuse to tackle the root causes, which is patriarchy, inequality, discrimination, that it is so difficult to tackle it, even if we pass laws or set up new institutions.
Do you think Sri Lanka has failed its women?
Not only Sri Lanka, I think globally, generally, most countries have and continue to fail their women. Sri Lanka is one of them. Even regionally, if you look the regional countries, yes, but we are even behind where the region is concerned. For instance, where women's political representation is concerned, we are one of the lowest. So I would say we definitely have failed our women.
What type of violence are we looking at that women actually face the most today in Sri Lanka?
Problem that we have is we actually don't also have clear statistics on this. And one of the reasons is that not everything is reported. Actually, what is reported is just the tip of the iceberg. But from the cases that we see, we know that family violence is something that is very common, or domestic violence. And of course, there's also psychological violence. Then we have sexual abuse of young girls, of girl children. We have that, we have incest, we have sexual harassment, and sexual harassment is actually widespread. It is normalized, and women also don't have redress, because you can say, oh, well, go and lodge a complaint, but if you're harassed on the street, how are you supposed to go lodge a complaint at the police station? How on earth are they even going to find this person? Plus, punishing people doesn't always solve the problem, because these are deeply ingrained values that start from the home. It's carried to school, university, workplace, and society. So we must tackle it there, in the home, at the school. And also structural violence. The discrimination, the patriarchy, sexism, and misogyny is so ingrained in the structures, because this behavior, these values are ingrained in the structures, that the normal way of functioning is to discriminate.
From your work in the National Human Rights Commission, what has been shocking when you look at the justice system in Sri Lanka, especially justice for women?
I think I'm at a point in my life where nothing shocks me. It is deeply disappointing. We can say it is depressing, it is disheartening, but it's not surprising. And it is the fact that the criminal justice system itself is deeply patriarchal. Because if a woman, it's not just going to the police and having a complaint accepted. Even in court, the way that women are treated, the way the defense counsel, the questions they ask you, they try to humiliate you. And at that time, what kind of action is, what's the response of the judicial officer there? So at every stage, she's not treated with respect or dignity, and does not have protection from violence, abuse, discrimination. And once again, the way that women are treated by the criminal justice sector is also structural.
As women, what would be our priorities then?
It is the duty of men. They have to take responsibility because they are the ones most often, not always, but most often perpetrating the violence. They are the ones holding the power. They are the ones in parliament. They are the ones in the police. You have very few women police officers, and even the women police officers themselves face harassment. When we talk of programs to combat sexual and gender-based violence, you do need to include men and particularly young boys, because the boys are like sponges. They are taking in patriarchal, sexist, misogynist values in society, and then they reproduce them. So then we have no hope if even the younger generation is going to be following in the footsteps of what's going on now. It's a responsibility of men. Men really do need to step up.
Kaleidoscope is on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. And if you like our show, subscribe and follow for weekly updates.